Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to Chelsea Fan TV and welcome back to another episode of the Chelsea Fan TV podcast. First things first, guys, make sure you smash the likes on the video and subscribe to Chelsea Fan TV if you haven't done so already. And also leave your thoughts down below in the comments on this episode. And yeah, it's not going well for Graham Potter. It's not going well for Chelsea at the moment. All I can say is thank God we haven't got any Chelsea for 6 weeks, because I think we all need a break. Another dire performance up at St James's Park, a 1-0 defeat. Pathetic, really. I think we had one attempt on goal through Conor Gallagher in the second half, but other than that, we showed absolutely nothing. And you know, things are really tricky. We're languishing down in 8th in the table, 16 points behind Arsenal. The top 4 looks a real big ask. There's not really anything positive to talk about. I mean, Lewis, thanks as always for coming, mate. What are your thoughts on the situation at the moment? We were both up at St James's Park. It's just everything that could possibly be going wrong at Chelsea right now is going wrong. And the more worrying thing is, there doesn't seem to be looking like there's any solutions to it.
Nope. I'm just glad we don't have to watch this club for another month. Simple as that, really. Bear with me, sorry guys. We have been terrible the majority of this season, majority of this year. I didn't even deep until an hour ago. We have a 47% winning percentage. We've been crap for ages, but it's not necessarily all the manager's fault. Like, this has just been coming for a while, to be honest. This is what happens when you don't scout properly for the good part of 5 years. When you sack a manager mid-season in the middle of a rebuild and you go straight back to stage 1 of a rebuild with a new manager, and you got a bunch of players that are overpaid, overpriced, and just letting us down on a weekly basis. I'm not surprised by it all, but still, to watch it happen in front of your eyes and to deep the level of crap that we're playing at. Like, deep this. Leicester City didn't win any of their first 7 games, and they are 4 points behind us.
Yeah, that's peak. But even we were mocking Liverpool at the start of the season. They're a point ahead of us now. Like, you know, we're laughing at Man United.
United to win, so Fulham didn't overtake us. And
we're laughing at United. We're 5-6 points behind them as well. And, you know, look,
we went from a point behind 2 points or 3 in front of Arsenal, which was still laughable in itself. Now they're 16 points ahead of us,
mate. 16 points. That's mad, and it's literally November. Like, we finished what, 20 odd points behind the league leaders behind the league winners last season. Mate,
I'd expect that there already, bro.
Yeah, I would expect that to be closer to 30 points this season. And this is what annoys me though, is people that are getting on the manager. And like, as you've said, as I've said, as many of us have said, like, by all means, Potter is not immune from any criticism in what's going on at the moment. But how people can sit and watch what's happening at this football club and decide the biggest problem is the manager is beyond me. And I think it just shows a complete fundamental misunderstanding of how football works, how long it takes to build a football team. And these people are either stupid or they just got a massive agenda against the manager, and whoever took over from Tuchel, they would have just hated. Because at the end of the day, like, what more can we expect from Graham Potter in 2 months of being here with the same players? We have got the same problems, and people are acting surprised while we're playing so badly when we've played so badly for this whole year. Like, people that are clamoring for Tuchel and mentioning him all the time, as if the Premier League form was good under him. As you just touched on, 47% win rate in the Premier League in this calendar year. That is terrible. And the form under Thomas Tuchel in the league was awful as well. Yes, the cup form was much better, and we were very grateful for that. But ultimately, we have not been a good Premier League side since we won the Premier League 5-6 years ago. We have lacked that consistency in the league. We have not been anywhere near good enough. And people think the answer to getting closer to winning the league is changing the manager. And it's just not the case. When will people realise that these players have been getting away with mediocre performances week in, week out for far too long? And it has to stop now, because if it doesn't stop, we're never going to move we're not going to move forward at all under this manager. And the next manager that comes in and the next one is going to have the same problems over and over again until we reset the culture from the top to the bottom And players that aren't good enough to play for this football club are moved on. Players that don't want to be at this football club are moved on. And the right players are brought in with the right attitudes and guys that actually want to be here. Because until that happens, nothing is going to change at this football club and things are going to get worse before they get any better.
Completely agree. And the penny won't drop for a lot of these fans until they get over the Champions League win, because that is starting to hold us back even in itself. Because the amount of excuses and mental gymnastics that I see for some of our players, for Tuchel as well. Let's not act like Tuchel was perfect. He's part of the reason why we're in this mess ourselves. Him deciding that it's okay to give Aspi 180k a week on a 3-year contract, meaning that we didn't prioritize wing-back depth, meaning we had to overplay Reece James again and get him injured, deciding that we didn't need a midfielder until literally deadline day. Like, Tuchel is just as culpable as everybody else, but no one will say it because the same old tired argument. We won Chelsea the Champions League. Get over it. Get over the Champions League win. We aren't champions of Europe anymore. I wish we were. I love that chant, but we're not. We aren't anymore. And a lot has changed since then. That midfield has got older. They've fallen into a decline. That attack has got worse. Our defense, we got rid of 2 out of the 3 starting centre-backs for free. A lot's changed.
And plus the players that are still here now are playing nowhere near the level they were playing in that run. So all those things combined make that "but we won the Champions League" rhetoric utter nonsense, because it's not the same situation. So it's not comparable at all. What's comparable is our league form, and the league form under Tuchel was dire, and the league form is still dire now. The league form hasn't suddenly become shit because Potter's taken over. It's been a problem for years and years now, and there's a number of issues. It's constantly changing the manager. It's the managers that come in then picking up 2 or 3 worths squads and players of previous managers, which is not conducive to building a team at all. And then, people are moaning, oh, nothing's changed. Well, of course nothing's changed, because no one's ever given the time to try and implement any change. To think that a 2 to 3 year rebuild, which is probably what we're looking at here, let's make no mistake about it, is to be completed in 2 months is ridiculous. And then, all right, so these guys get what these fans get their wish and Potter's sacked. Who comes in? And then we're going to be having this same conversation less than 1 season later. So what do you want? You either, you've got to stop being spoiled.
The funniest thing about that is, sorry to interrupt.
No, crack on, mate.
When people were doing this whole Tuchel in-out narrative, what was the argument? If we sack Tuchel, we'll bring in a new manager and it will be the same thing. Now we're sitting here with a new manager. It's not even 2 months, and we're saying, don't sack this manager because we'll bring in another manager and nothing will change. People need to get out of this cycle. The clear constant are these bummy players who just aren't good enough. And it's as simple as that. Congratulations on winning the Champions League and the Club World Cup. You've been crap ever since.
Yeah, simple as that. And people that, people were saying, oh, get rid of Potter, he's out of his depth. For 2 things. Firstly, yes, he's out of his depth. He's never managed at this level before. He's never managed a club that plays 3 times a week. He's never managed in the Champions League. Yeah, he's never managed in the Champions League. He's not managed world-class players at the top of his game. Yes, he's managed good players at Brighton, but he's not managed, top professionals, big egos, massive dressing room and whatnot. He's still learning as well. And to expect him to come in and make an impact within 2 months is laughable. What I would agree with is that you would expect to see certain patterns of play, perhaps an identity, perhaps like signs of an idea of how we're going to play. And I think those things are lacking at the moment, and he needs to work on that for sure. But people suggesting that the manager is going to be removed or should be removed is nonsense, because Bowley, this is a massive outlay. One, paid £20 million to get Graham Potter out of Brighton, plus £2 million for his backroom staff. 22 million for him. 5-year contracts worth 12 million a season. If he sees that out, that's a 60 million pound investment. So this could be an over 80 million pound investment on Potter and his coaching staff for this project. And to throw that away in less than a season would be an absolute mockery. And it's the model we're trying to move away from. And like fans of a certain age, and me, myself, and yourself, we've grown up following Chelsea, where winning it's only been winning, and the answer to not winning is getting rid of the manager, and that's all a lot of people have ever known. But football's changed, the game's evolved, and you cannot win the league or challenge for the league now unless you try and build something over 2, 3, 4 seasons. It's as simple as that.
Simple as that. I agree with every word that you said. The biggest thing that we haven't done in the entire Abramovich era is build a philosophy. And Potter is definitely capable of doing that. Like, people say he hasn't got the pedigree. He never had the pedigree for any of his jobs. All he's ever done is go on an upward trajectory, and he's succeeded every club he's been at. Why? That is enough for me to believe he can succeed at Chelsea. Yeah, he hasn't got the pedigree or the trophies or anything like that. Neither did Sarri, and I thought Sarri was a quality manager for us who didn't get given the time to build his philosophy either. So to me, the same energy applies. Potter is a good manager. These players are crap, and they are the problem. Yep. Not the manager. It's these players. Overpaid, overpriced, overhyped. Majority of them.
Yeah, I would agree, mate. And look, it's very difficult to change that in one go. And it's going to take a number of windows and a number of seasons to sift out and get rid of the players that aren't good enough and don't want to be here, and bring in the right players that do want to be at this club. But you cannot judge Graham Potter or come to the conclusion that he's not good enough within 2 months without him having any time to bring in his own players in a transfer window and to move out who he doesn't want. Until that happens, you cannot say that he's not the right guy. Ultimately, in the long run, this may not work, this appointment. But until he's given the time and until he's allowed to bring his own players in, you cannot say that he's not good enough, because there's no evidence to suggest either way that he's not good enough or he is good enough. You have to give this a chance. And right now, the poor recruitment of the last 4, 5 seasons is coming home all at once to massively, massively bite us in the arse, because we have got a squad of players that the complete wrong mentalities, the wrong attitudes, don't want to be here on massive contracts when we can't get rid of them because they're just happy to sit on the bench and pick their wages up because no one else will give them the money that we offered them to come here. And it's a big work in progress. And moving forward to transfers, Fabrizio Romano's reported, that Chelsea's January is going to be very busy. January window is notoriously hard to do good business in. Prices are inflated because teams are desperate. Chelsea are going to need to do some work if we're going to finish in the top 4 or get anywhere near it, because we need to bring in players. It's clear that. What areas do you think need improving? I mean, the obvious is probably central midfield and a right wing back to back up Reece James. But I also think if we can do some work in the forward areas, that would be preferable as well. But it's a big ask for January, all that.
First thing out of everything is a midfielder. Get a DM in ASAP. After that, some wing-back depth for Reece James would be good. Cucurella potentially, but after Lewis Hall's last 2 games, I'm perfectly happy for him to be the number 2. If we could get a creator, that would be nice, but I wouldn't expect that either. I just want a midfielder first and foremost. If we get a midfielder, wing-back depth, that's a 10 out of 10 window for me. And then we just move on from there. I don't expect all the answers to be brought in one window, especially in 1 month.
Mate, for sure. And it's going to be tricky. And, people are wanting loads of players moved out. It's hard to move players out, as I said, because of the ridiculous contracts we put them on when we signed them. And now they're not good enough and other teams aren't going to take them. And it's hard to move players out. So it might be a slow process to get these players out the door. But as long as it does happen, then that's the most important thing. Potter, I think, is going to have to start being ruthless, because I don't care what your name is. If you're not good enough, or B, if you don't want to be at this football club, I don't care what you've done in your career in the past. Get rid. Only want people that want to be at Chelsea and want to play for Chelsea. And I don't care what you've done in your career, how good you are, as I said. If you don't want to be at this football club, you need to be moved out. It's as simple as that, because you have to have the right blend of players that want to be at this football club and want to play for Chelsea. And if that means having a slightly lower caliber of player in terms of quality, but they actually want to be at this football club, then that's the route we have to go down for me.
Exactly that. Sorry, I'm just got the mic on mute because I'm coughing all the time. We need to be patient as a fan base, and not patient with the players, because we've been patient with these lot for enough. It's patience with the manager. Everybody praised Potter for his work at Brighton and said he was punching above his weight with that squad. Can we not give him that sort of same energy at Chelsea? Like, he's made very good players out of that squad. Probably better players to manage than ours.
Yeah.
And he's been given the opportunity to build that squad in his image too. Like, he needs the time to be able to do that. I will say it every single day. You can criticize things where you want to criticize. That front three came from like the lowest depths of hell. And I don't know what he was thinking with that. It's what it is, though. Criticize that as much as you want to. That's fine. If you're doing this whole Potter in, Potter out narrative, you need to get in the bin personally. Like, this early, when the same bummy players are still stinking up and they're not the ones carrying us. Says a lot.
No, it does, mate. And, you know, ultimately, Potter, like, the buck does lie with the manager because you can't sack all the players. Of course, that's the situation. But he has to be given the time. You know, when that certain sections of this fan base are so entitled and so spoiled that, you know, if Chelsea don't win, then the manager has to go, and it's unacceptable if we don't win. Look, we all want Chelsea to be winning trophies, and the standard at this football club is to win the big trophies, and that should always remain the same. But it's also okay to accept that right now we aren't anywhere near the standard that we set for this football club, and we have to scale back those expectations and accept that right now we're probably not in contention to challenge for trophies. We're not good enough to do it, and that's the reality of the situation. And, you know, throwing your toys out the pram and crying for a former manager to come back or to get rid of this manager is not the answer to any of your problems, because those same people that are calling for this manager to go, as soon as we go on a bad run with another manager, which would inevitably happen very shortly, they'd be doing exactly the same thing again. So until you readjust your expectations as a fan, then you are going to constantly be moaning and wasting energy and wasting time, and it's tiresome. I can't imagine how tiresome it is for people to do that, to spend their days criticizing managers when they've not even been given a chance. Just relax.
I will say, when it comes to the expectations, like, keep the same expectations. I have no issue with that, but realize these players are not capable of reaching those expectations. This squad isn't capable of it. We have goalkeepers we don't trust. We have a defense that leaks goals for fun. We have a midfield that gets ripped apart on transition and has zero creativity about it. We're lucky if we can even push the ball forward. We have 10s that don't create, wingers that barely get given game time, to be honest, and our strikers get no service. So why do we expect this? And also, if everyone's saying it's on the manager, this was the same crap under Tuchel, except our defense was a little bit better because we hadn't changed it up yet.
Yeah. But I mean, to us, even towards the end of the Tuchel's reign, we were letting in so many goals. It's, you know, it's not like, you know, we were doing really well, as you said. The football was dire. It hasn't got any better. And, you know, we have to be patient. You know, football and patience doesn't go together. You know, as soon as a couple of games are lost, people start calling for the manager, and that mentality has to change, because that isn't helpful for anyone. You know, we all want Chelsea to do well, and by all means, you know, I'm happy for people to have different opinions, to disagree with fans on certain things, but don't, like, at least have sort of valid criticism and like valid evidence to back up your opinion. You know, just because just to say you need to get rid of a manager after 2 months with him not being given a chance and having no actual real evidence to support your argument is utter nonsense. Like, it's just people are just wasting energy. And until that changes, you know, the fan base needs to try and unite. Look, fans aren't going to agree on everything, but I think it's the general consensus that for Chelsea to succeed, we need to get behind this manager, and we need to back this manager, and this manager needs to be given the time and supported through the difficult times. And as we've said, criticize where it's due. I've not agreed with certain comments. I know you haven't as well, about, you know, making us sound a little bit like a mid-table team, you know, in terms of when we played away at City, saying, oh, you know, we went away to a big side and we gave it a go, speaking as if we'd come from League One or League Two and we'd had a big day out at the Etihad. You know, I don't agree with that, and criticism is fair for that. Criticism is fair for certain selections, but criticism is not fair for the situation we find ourselves in now, because it's years and years of bad planning has led us to this situation. So until that changes, then we have to stick by the manager. It's not blind faith. It's just common sense. And it's an understanding that these things take time to build in football. This is where I'm convinced, right, that this fan base, if we had Pep Guardiola or Klopp in charge, there would have been sections of this fan base. If Pep came in and had the first season that he had at City, fourth in the league and no trophies, there would have been sections of this fan base calling for him to be gone. Likewise, if Klopp had come in and finished, sixth or seventh or eighth in his first season, first 2 seasons, whatever it was, they'd have been calling for him to go. The same Arsenal fans, and I hate to use Arsenal as an example, but the same Arsenal fans that were calling for Arteta to go, and they were desperate for him to get out because he was ruining the club. He was out of his depth. He wasn't good enough for the club. Now look at what he's doing. And Arsenal is an example. I know they've not won anything yet, apart from the FA Cup right at the start of his reign, but you can see a tangible progress each season. And Arteta was starting at a much lower level of experience than Potter was. That was his first job. Potter's got a lot more experience than Arteta has. So it just goes to show that if you do stand by a manager and you do back them in a transfer market and allow them their time to implement their ideas, that it can work. And it's so important for us to do that. And Potter's got to be given at least 2 or 3 years. He has to be. I mean, depending on how bad it gets, obviously, if we end up coming 8th, 9th, 10th or whatever, maybe it's a different conversation. But I mean, Lewis, in terms of this season, mate, have you kind of accepted that this season's kind of a write-off and we just do our best to finish as high as we can? And if that means we're playing Europa League football next season, then that's what it is.
Yeah, I accepted that as soon as Tuchel got sacked, in all honesty, because the players are the problem. I think we as a fan base just need to unite and understand that our players just aren't good enough. Anyone who thinks Potter's the problem over the players, I invite you to let me know why in the comment section below. But one rule, you don't get to use the Champions League as a reason why. Because that's what everyone just goes to, and it's a load of crap. And I don't want to hear it anymore. Tell me why these players should be supported. Like they haven't just let us down all year. Like, how many games have we said that Tuchel has coached wins out of? And we've just played poorly. Right. Now we've gone straight back to stage 1 of a rebuild. We need to cut this team apart and we need to start again. Because even under Tuchel, we were saying that needed to be done. We were saying our attack wasn't good enough. We were saying our midfield wasn't good enough. Why isn't the same energy applied for Potter? I don't understand it at all.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I just wanted to round out, mate, with a point about, which I think refers to the attitude within the squad and sort of the almost the self-entitlement that they don't have to do the basic things and the basic levels of courtesy. I know on fan cams after the game yesterday, after the game against Newcastle and after the game at City as well, that players are having to be told to come over and clap the fans, and certain players, you know, Aspilicueta having to, at Man City in the Cup, having to get players to go over and clap. They were just going to go and walk straight down the tunnel. At Newcastle, a large percentage of the players just went straight down a tunnel, didn't come and applaud the fans. And I know that's something that really annoys you. And for me, I think it's totally unacceptable. You're paid hundreds of thousands of pounds to play for this football club. The least you can do is go and thank the fans who travel up and down this country week in, week out, sometimes in midweek, spending their hard-earned money to support you. The least you can do is go and clap the fans. And for players not to do that is inexcusable for me. And it shows bad attitude, and it's the sort of characters you do not want in the squad.
It doesn't even show bad attitude. It's a lack of appreciation for the fans.
Just don't care.
That's why I don't care about them, because they don't care about us. Everyone always says, oh, it's just a job to them. Cool. Well, I will look at you as employees. Do your job. And you haven't been consistent at your job in years. And you're overpaid, you're overpriced, and you're overhyped, like I always say. The only one that I could potentially understand is Ziyech. Because Ziyech don't want to be here. He got heavily booed by the fans and slandered against Salzburg at home, I think it was.
Yeah.
So I understand that. Pulisic, no, he doesn't get booed at games. Maybe he doesn't get cheered as much, which I understand. Like, it's not really the same energy, but he doesn't get slandered. Not from my time that I've spent in the grounds. Havertz, one of the most protected players by our match-going fans. They chant his name every match day, even though he's shit. So mate, I don't want to hear nothing from him. Cucurella, I expected a lot better from him. Mount, Gallagher, expected a lot better from them.
Yeah, I think
Even Potter. This is where I'll go at Potter too, because he only pops up when we win. When we lose, he's straight down the tunnel. And I don't like that either.
No.
He needs to be coming out and applauding the fans too. I get it might be a cultural thing that a lot of worldwide fans don't necessarily understand. But from a match-going perspective, when you pay the money to go and support your team week in and week out, and for the majority of those match-going fans, it is week in and week out. They are there very regularly. When you're traveling, even in the case of Newcastle, 3, 4, 5 hours to go up there. And we all know we're going up there to see a loss. No one has faith for the game. There are people on the club coach who are traveling 7 hours one way, 7 hours the way back, 14 hours, 2/3 of a day spent traveling just to watch these bums. And they still support and chant for 90 minutes. And you can't even clap them off. Can't even go up and just say, you know, thanks for coming out. Like, I know it wasn't the best result or anything, but thanks for coming out. Ain't even got the balls to do that. Yeah. Cool. Leave my club. Please leave my club. I can't wait for the overhaul, man, because that's where we're going to be better as a club.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, just on Havertz, mate, I remember I made a comment, I don't know, a few months ago probably, and it still stands to this day. I stand by it. Havertz has been no better than Werner. And I got battered for saying that.
Werner's been better.
And Havertz is dining out on a Champions League final goal, and people think that he won us the Champions League when, in fact, all right, he scored the winning goal. Great, but
he's generational because he turned up in a final and scored. Sorry, wasn't Asensio generational in 2017? And he scored in the final.
What about Goetze as well when he scored the World Cup winning goal?
Well, and by the way, Havertz, please ball out for Germany. I am begging you. Raise that transfer value ASAP. If he has a brilliant tournament, we can boot his ass out in January. And we can get the majority of our cash back.
Like, he come on against Newcastle. I don't know, you must have seen it. That header from a corner, mate, it was a free header, and he sent it miles wide. And this is a guy that's a big guy and is meant to be good in the air. And that was pathetic.
That's like one of his only redeemable attributes. And I watched that and I didn't even rage. I've got to the point where it's like,
it's acceptable. You just know. That. Yeah, it's
not even acceptable. It's again, I know my standards that I want of this club, and I know Kai Havertz will not reach that standard.
Yeah, he won't. Like, he's not good enough.
Left. He is top 3 worst signings we have ever made in a Chelsea shirt, and debatably wouldn't even be third.
No, mate. He's honestly, mate. It's in everyone's best interests for the players that come in. We want them to do well. But let's make it perfectly clear. On Havertz, hasn't delivered at all. A moment's player. Scored a couple of goals in big games. Great. Overall, in the Premier League, this guy has been utterly terrible. And people praise him for running about. This is a £70 million footballer, and we're praising off the ball work. And for him,
you know why though? Because it's the same tired argument, the Champions League, and this fan base makes me start to hate it. A Champions League win, because all it is now is an excuse. Yes. It's not a source of celebration anymore. It's an excuse. Oh, he's fine. He won us the Champions League. Oh, he's great. He was in a Champions League winning squad. Respectfully, we never said this about Ryan Bertrand.
No.
We never said that. And he debuted in a final. So where's the generational talk there? No. He did a good job on a day, and that was it. Ryan Bertrand is Havertz. Turned up for one game, and that's about it. The difference is Bertrand wasn't hyped up to heaven and back. That's why no one slanders him. Good servant. Did his job for the club. It is what it is. Havertz, the same 3 O's. Overpaid, overpriced, overhyped. Yeah. And you know what? Overrated.
Yeah, massively. Mate, massively.
All he did was come on and just beef Dan Burn for 15 minutes because he was still pissy that he got elbowed back in February.
And the mad thing is that we showed more fight after the final whistle in that little scrap at the end than we did in the whole 90 minutes, and we have done for large majorities of the season. And that just sums us up.
I was just begging for Havertz to get himself sent off. That would have been like the only positive from that game if his arse was suspended.
But yeah, just to round out, mate, I'm just going to finish with some depressing stats that we know our attack's poor, but the front five players this season so far have contributed 17 goals in 14 games. Top scorer in the league is Raheem Sterling. 3 Premier League goals, and the player with the most assists for the club.
Did you say 3 goals?
Yeah, 3 goals is our top scorer in the league, Sterling. And mate, even worse, our top assist maker in the Premier League, Thiago Silva, 2.
Whatever, innit? We're just shit. We're shit.
Hey, shit.
It's the manager's fault.
Yeah.
It's Potter's fault that our top assister is a defender.
Yeah.
Our top league goal scorer has 3 goals.
3 goals. Yeah, it's and that's where we are. And you know, the sooner that people realise that's the level we're at the moment, and this is what we're dealing with, you know, then we have to move past this, and that is the big thing. We need to find answers to the problems, and we seem to be a long way off that, but hopefully it will come. But yeah, it seems like a good place to round out this episode. Guys, please make sure you smash the likes if you haven't done so already, and subscribe to Chelsea Fan TV. And don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to check out Lewis's channel, Carefree Lewis G. You can also check out my channel as well, the Blues Brothers. So please do go over and check those out as well, guys. But yeah, guys, we'll catch you in the next episode. Up the Chelsea as always.